Let's welcome our main speaker for tonight, Ralph.
My name is Ralph White. I'm an alcoholic. First off, I'd like to thank the group. Mike, thank you guys for asking me to come out and share my experience, strength, and hope. And I really want to give you guys a special thank you. I've been here more than once. If you're drunk of my variety and you get invited back somewhere, you know you're still living in the middle of the spiritual experience. So I want to thank you guys for asking me to come out and share. I want to thank you again for tolerating me. Chuck talked about tolerating, because a couple of weeks ago my brother was out here. And now you guys get a double dose of some of what it was that we went through. So I don't know what he did, but he must have left his mark. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Chuck for giving up the message of hope, giving me a meet. You know, I get the chance to go out and share, and a lot of times, you know, before I go out, I'm kind of like, damn, but I need a meeting. See, because I hear me all the time. I know my story and the rest of that. I'm like, shit. So when I go to a meeting and I'm sharing, even though something happens, but, you know, thank you for sharing the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, and now I want to do the most important thing I'll do tonight. I want to welcome our new friends. Ones who identify Chris and Thomas and Perry. Anybody else who came in since the meeting started, and anybody else who's like me, who didn't want to stand up and be identified because I might stumble, or I might look stupid, or you guys might laugh at me. We understand. I want to welcome my new friends to Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to let you know, if you drink the way I drink, and if you come from the places I come from, and if you're the alcoholic of my variety, this is probably the best step you can take from the cradle to the grave. And I don't say it because I'm tonight's speaker. I don't say it because you guys expect to hear that, because it's the party line at Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's what we say when we get behind this podium. I say it because this thing you guys introduced me to, this fellowship I discovered, this power that's in my life today, these principles by which I live, have been working for me like nothing else I had discovered till I got it, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And I'm real aware. I get to do this, like I said a couple of times, and you know, the temptation, especially after listening to Chuck and knowing my brother told a lot of this story a couple of weeks ago, you know, the temptation is to get up in front of you and say, okay, I'm not going to share a long drunk-a-log. I just want to share about recovery. But one of our new friends is probably sitting in the meeting somewhat like I was sitting. You know, I could remember being new, and a speaker was standing up in front of the group addressing us that particular night. And he was dressed somewhat nice, and his hair was combed, and his eyes were bright. He was stringing sentences together real well, and I remember thinking to myself that night, I know this cat ain't been where I've been, I know he ain't felt what I felt, and I know he ain't done what I've done. What can this lame tell me? So it's very important, so that you can appreciate who it is that's up here. You can't appreciate where it is I am if you don't know from whence God has brought me. So I'm going to share in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like today, in the hopes that somebody is thinking to themselves, damn, I used to do that same shit. Man, I used to feel like that. Or most important, I too want to have this thing. And I'm going to be real brief with a quick bio. I come from South Central LA. You know, I come from a real large family of 6 boys that were raised in my family, and we didn't have a lot. Had a lot of similarities in some ways with Chuck, and a whole lot of differences in other ways. And one of the similarities is I had an alcoholic father too. And my earliest memory of my old man was I did not want to be like him. He seemed weak. He was not somebody I looked up to. He was not somebody I admired. And from an early age, my earliest vow when it came to my daddy, I'm not going to be like him. Now, my daddy was not abusive, and he was not violent. My father was absentee drunk. And every other Friday, like clockwork, you knew he wouldn't be at the house. And it would be a little kid in the neighborhood who felt it was his duty to inform my family how my old man had been showing his ass up the street at the pool hall the night before. And I would feel ashamed and embarrassed, and those are feelings I'm familiar with from a real early age. Some Saturday mornings, I could remember moms in their room going up under the bed with a broom and bringing those Ripple bottles out, and they'd be clinking together, and she'd put them in a brick-bound paper bag before we could see them. And she'd take them outside. She wouldn't put them in the trash can in the house. She'd take them outside and throw them away outside. My old man got put out the house when I was 9 or 10 years old, and me and my brothers thought he looked good going, and my mom proceeded to raise 6 boys by herself. I got one of these mothers. I was raised in the early 60s, and I have a mother that didn't have a high school education, and she raised these 6 boys by herself. Now, when you grow on, you get something that's called perspective, and perspective works somewhat like this. You got a mom that raised 6 boys by herself. She didn't have a high school education, and she was on welfare. She put herself back through high school. She put herself through college. She worked 2 jobs. She took in clothes that she washed and ironed for other folk. And when you're grown, you look back on your life and say, damn, I had a hell of a mom. Look how she sacrificed for her boys. But when you're a kid about 8 or 9 years old, and you coming home from school with a couple of partners, and you hit the front door, and mom's is in the living room with an ironing board up and a rag on her head, you don't feel proud. You feel ashamed and embarrassed, and you stop bringing partners home from school. And if your name is Ralph, you start living in that fantasy world, and you start living in that prison that I've lived in most of my life. Biggest prison I've ever lived in. It's the prison I live in sometimes today. And that's the prison of what I think you think about me. See, I don't know what you think about me, but I'm trapped in what I think you think about me, and I'll do whatever it takes to shape and form and mold your opinion around. I'll wine you, I'll dine you, I'll woo you, I'll con you, I'll bully you, I'll manipulate you, I'll buy you. Please like me. Now, I don't particularly have to like your ass, but please like me. You know, and right now, before somebody get the wrong idea about what this guy is doing up in the front, because somebody is thinking, I know it. Somebody's thinking right now, this guy might be all right speaking, looking around the room, he making eye contact, whatever. Don't let that fool you. I'm looking for the person whose attention is drifting, look like you going to sleep. I'm going to work on your ass. You'll like me before this is over with. And see, my story goes like this, you know, unlike Chuck, I started real late in life. I'm the kid that was always, I was smart, you know, I was a square. Moms didn't play. I described to you just a little bit about my mom. Most of my story growing up don't have nothing to do with virtue. It has to do with fear. I was scared as hell of my mama, and she did not play. So I went to school religiously, and I went to school. I was highly motivated, you know, and I had big goals and big ambitions from a very early age in life. I was always class president, student body president, teacher's pet, straight A student. I achieved and I accomplished a lot of things as a kid, and I would have traded them all in if I could have been cool. You know, the cats who was cool was smoking cigarettes in the bathroom, taking quarters from cats, usually me, you know, talking shit, and they knew how to talk to girls, man, and you guys were a mystery to me, and that was a big part of my story, you know, man. I was scared of girls, and I wanted, like, anything to be cool. You know, all of you guys, some of you guys were that guy, and a lot of you guys were like me. It had one of your boys that always knew how to get with the girl, man. He'd be in the corner, and he'd be talking to her and lean over and say something, and they'd be giggling, and I'd be like, God damn, what's he saying? You know, because I just couldn't imagine. Some of you guys, you know what I'm talking about, the ones who just had it like that. And man, I was terrified, right? 16 years old, fast forward, 16 years old, got a girlfriend, one of my first girlfriends. I used to walk her home from school every now and then, maybe kiss her every now and then. That's the extent of it. I didn't have no conversation. I didn't know what you do with girls. I'm in the back seat of a buddy's car this particular night. Me and my girl are in the back seat, him and his girl are in the front seat. We had a drive-in movie. Plastic cup of rum and Coke comes to the back seat this particular night. Ralph drinks that rum and Coke, goes down real warm, rush back to the top of my brain. All of a sudden, hands start doing things they had never done. Mouth starts saying things it had never said. I, too, had arrived. Alcohol did for me. Alcohol did for me what I couldn't do for myself. It gave me the courage to do and to be and to say things I wouldn't do, be, and say without it. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. The big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, talks about me in a lot of places, and it starts talking about me in the front of the book. In the doctor's opinion, there's a line in there that goes something like this. Men and women like Ralph drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. Recognized it the first time I heard it. I heard Chuck talking about white knight and an old granddad, and that's the kind of shit that make me scrunch my face up now, you know, because all that, you know, ooh, shit, whiskey and scotch and all that, that was for you hard. Now, I'm drinking it, I'm cutting it, but I'm drinking it, right, because I like what it did. I could always, later for the but I like what alcohol did. I'm not overnight alcoholic. I started real late, and that's what my story is. I had, I had high ambitions, I had high goals, I was a high achiever, and I set my sights high. I'm kind of like Bill in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He imagined himself the head of vast enterprises, And when I read Bill's story, and somebody bring me back, we talking about the disease being progressive, right? But I'm going to veer off right now. Don't let me get lost. But when I read Bill's story, I came around here 4 times before I came to stay. And I had read Bill's story before, and I thought to myself, this cat I can't identify with this big book Alcoholics Anonymous. I can't identify with Bill's story. I don't have nothing in common with him. Number 1, he's white. Obviously, I'm not. Number 2, he was a stockbroker. If you check out how I handle money, I don't do well with money and shit, right? He was back in the 30s. All he did was alcohol. I, too, have special features with mine. We had a lot of differences, I thought. But I read Bill's story with some people who showed me how to read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. And they told me the way that you read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, Ralph, is the same way that you go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and listen to the members share. When you listen to people share, and when you read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, ask yourself these 3 questions. Did I drink like he drank? Did I think like he thought? Or did I feel like he felt? And when I ask myself those questions, whenever I hear one of you guys share, whenever I read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, it comes to life for me in my experience. And I can really identify with Bill when he talked about he imagined himself the head of vast enterprises. Like Bill, I'm grandiose. When I was coming up, I always thought I would be somebody and leave my mark and do something important, right? And so I'm the one that I started late in life because I described to you who I was, and I'm not overnight alcoholic. That's not my experience. My experience is this. I understand when we talk about this disease being progressive in nature. That's how it showed up in me. I started drinking to go to parties the youngsters would go to at the time when I was in high school. Garage parties we'd go to, and I liked what alcohol did. My drinking stayed that way for a time. I graduated from high school in 71, and I graduated to higher education in every sense of the word. I'm still drinking in 71 to go to parties. By the end of 71, I'm drinking to go to parties, but now it has crept up to during the daytime to get ready for the party on the weekend. By 1972, I'm drinking not only on the weekend, but I'm drinking during the week after class. By the end of 72, I'm drinking and I've added non-addictive marijuana to the mix. By 1973, I'm drinking, I'm smoking herb, I'm selling herb, and I'm using other drugs, and I'm doing it on a daily basis, and you could not have told me it was anything wrong with the way that I was living. The big book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about at a certain point in my drinking career, I won't be able to tell the true from the false. And the way that that worked for me was this. The way that I'm doing it, ain't that the way everybody does it? Especially in the late 60s and early 70s, man. In those days, man, because I used to think to myself, why would you be young, with a bright future, with a little bit of money? I was getting financial aid. Didn't chasing women and getting loaded come with the territory? In those days, man, if you came over my house and I couldn't offer you something to drink or something to smoke, I wasn't being a good host. And if I went over your house and you didn't do the same for me, not only weren't you being a good host, wasn't coming over your house no more. For what? Wasn't nothing to discuss. I am so glad, and most people in here from my era or before me, I am so glad I came up at the time that I came up at. And I'm not knocking. We have a lot of young people who come to Alcoholics Anonymous now, and I welcome you. Please stay. But I'm glad I came up at the time that I came up, man. Because now in 2003, it's crazy. Sexually transmitted diseases, AIDS, safe sex, all that shit. Man, didn't it seem like it was simpler back when I was just starting out? Man, back in those days, I would go to a club, I'd have a 1-question interview for a girl. You get high? If not, next, I'm moving on to the next one. I don't need to know your sign and where you work. None of that old shit. Let's get to the threshold, but then, you do it like I do it, It's such a trip because everything I did revolved around drinking. And, I came all the way from South Central to get here, and I said, I need to give myself 40 minutes. In the old days, and this is my story. In the old days, I would have looked and I would have said, I got to go from here to the Marina. That's about a 3-joint trip. I used to measure time and distance by how loaded you could get from point A to point B. Somehow I made it through school, and I started working as a counselor for LA City Schools, man. And even though I should have had the things that normal people should acquire, my life just never seemed to go like that. It's a couple of baffling features about the disease that I suffer from, and one of them is this. I can't see what alcohol is doing to me until I'm free of it. I can't see what it's doing to me when I'm in the mix. Some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you guys tonight that's crystal clear to me in the rearview mirror of experience was not at all clear to me when I was going through it. You know, and you know what I don't like about the damn invisible line? It's invisible. There's no warning sign to say, Ralph, if you take this next one, and in my experience, I'm just like it say in the book. By the time I realize I have a problem and need to do something about it, it's too late for me to do something about it on my own. And that's how it worked for me. I'm the kind of guy that sits up here like somebody's like me sitting in the meeting right now playing the reggae game. If only I knew then what I know now, I never would have went over here or took this, yeah, right. You know, it reminds me of a story I like to tell, a story about a little boy named Johnny. Johnny had a habit. His father frowned on. Johnny used to like to play with himself, right? Father goes to work one day, comes home early, bedroom door is closed. He goes in little Johnny's bedroom without knocking at the door. Sure enough, little Johnny's in the bedroom masturbating. Father looks at him and says, son, I thought I told you if you keep doing that, you'll go blind. Little Johnny looked up at him and said, well, Daddy, can I just do it till I need glasses? You know, and that kind of reminds me of me in the life. I might see Chuck and, ooh, if I get like his ass, I quit. I might see my boy, oh, shit, you need to quit. I'm just going to do it till I need glass, right? And the book talks about seeking the Lord companion. It wasn't long before I became the Lord companion. It wasn't long before I became the ones I used to look down on. You know, this is not the first time I go to work in suits. It is the first time today that you won't see me in the same suit tomorrow that you saw me in yesterday, however. You know, and that is the miracle of this program. You know, I used to come up in spots and see people in my disease. We ain't got enough time. Somebody slow me down and bring me back. We ain't got enough time to go through everything that this disease took me through. I will touch on some of them. I got married in 1980, Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a bachelor party the night before my wedding, Friday night. None of the rest of these cats are getting married the next day. All of them have sense enough to go home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. My ass, the groom, I'm still at my bachelor party till 7:30 that morning, right? Me and my brothers, 4 of us in the program right now. You know, they take me home at 7:30, pour me in the bed, right? I'm toe up. I lay on top of the bed till 11 o'clock. So I lay on top of the bed for about 3 hours, right, to get ready for my wedding. I'm toe up, right? They get me up to go to my wedding. I'm supposed to say my own vows. My wife took one look at me, stumbling up in there, took a look at the preacher, looked back at me, looked at the preacher and said, scratch the on vow, say the regular on his ass, right? Now my lines are cut to 2 words. It gets to me, I get ready to say I do. I say, and threw up all over the altar. Passed out. Have not taken a wedding picture to this day. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. To our new friends, if you're anything like me, there are a lot of things that we share in these rooms and from this podium. Words that I recognize, but the way you guys use them are not in my everyday walk-around vocabulary. Come in here and hear folk talk about a psychic change and the phenomena of craving and this allergy of the body. Things that I needed some of the old-timers to help me with. But the first time I heard pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, didn't need no help with that one. Folk like us don't need a dictionary for pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I lived pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization up close and personal, and I lived it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because I need to let you know that that wedding day was the high point of that marriage. It went downhill after that. Because I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband can remember sitting on my living room couch. Wife coming out the bathroom, pulling her pants up real fast, going to the dining room table, picking her purse up off that table and clutching it real close to her as she went back to the bathroom. And I feel this tall because nobody was in the house but me and her, but it got like that in my house. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband can remember coming home and sticking the key in the door. Looking right here, my wife and 2-year-old daughter is sitting right there crying. And I look over here and homeboy's got a gun pointing at my stomach saying, I want my money right now. And ladies, don't take offense. Let me talk to the fellas for just a moment. I don't know about any of the rest of you guys, But when I was out there, I had a lot of fears and a lot of doubts about, do I have what it takes to be a father? Do I have what it takes to be a husband? Because if you in the life, your track record already give you your answer, right? Because what's the father's role and what's the husband's role? To protect and to provide. And it's a cold-blooded feeling, fellas, laying in bed with a woman night after night after night after night, knowing not only aren't you protected, knowing not only aren't you providing, you the one bringing the wolf to the door. Because my house got broke into 4 times. 4 times I knew what had happened when I pretended to call 77th Division. Because they had told me, you're going to give us our money or we're going to come up in there and get it. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband could remember sitting on my back porch. 2-year-old daughter coming outside pulling in my coat. Daddy, Daddy, that's my piggy bank. Remember stopping and giving her a shitty grin and saying, don't worry, baby. Daddy's going to put some dollar bills in here for this change. And I wasn't raised to be stealing from my daughter, and I wasn't raised to be stealing from my wife. I was an alcoholic with no tools of recovery, and I did what it took to get what I needed to get. I shared with you earlier that my disease is progressive in nature. And for me, it's progressive in a couple of areas. I shared one area already. It takes more than it used to take in order for me to get the same effect. But my disease is progressive in another area, my behavior. My behavior gets progressively worse. I'm willing to do more readily than I used to be willing to do in order to chase it. And it was not enough that my wife started sleeping with the purse up under the pillow. I lay up in bed some of those nights with that money, and it's something about having that feeling on me and knowing that money is just an arm's length away. And I lay up in that bed and I let that regular breathing set in, and I let it set in for a minute, man. And I climb out my side of the bed and climb out on and crawl over to her side, and I come up under the pillow, and I come out real slow, put the purse in front of me, creep out the bedroom, creep out the living room, jump in the Volkswagen, coast out the driveway, I'm gone. It's Wednesday, I come back Monday. Did that one too many Wednesdays, came back one Monday. Had a note on the door, suitcase on the porch. The rest of your shit is at your mama's house. I'm put out the house. I'm now my daddy. And I go to stay at my mom's house and my disease really takes off. I'm one of them people, man, that when I'm in full flight from reality, when this disease has really got a hold on Ralph, that's what I do. I don't work. That is my profession. I really identified with Chuck when he was up here sharing. I'm a mad dog. I'm nothing nice, and it's not pretty. And anybody in the vicinity, I used to say it all the time, anybody in the vicinity is a potential mark, you know, and that it wasn't pretty for me, man. And my ex-wife, I need to back up, thought it was something salvageable about this piece of man that she married. And she used to bring my daughter over to my mom's house on Saturday afternoons so we could keep a father-daughter relationship. And I need to let you guys know that I wanted to be a father to my little girl with everything in me. I really, really, really did. Remember, I'm not going to be my daddy. I'm not going to abandon my family. I'll make my family proud of me. And I wanted to be a father to that little girl with everything in me, man. I wanted to take my little girl to Disneyland and Magic Mountain. I wanted to take her to a movie on a Saturday afternoon. I wanted to walk up the street to the store with her little hand and my big hand and just buy her ice cream. I wanted to sit her in my lap and read her stories. I wanted to tuck her in bed at night and give her a good night kiss. I wanted to get the look from my little girl that I've seen men in this fellowship get since I've been here. The look like this is my daddy and this is my hero. And the best I could do on those Saturday afternoons was 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I disappear. I tell my mom I'm going to get her some ice cream. It'll be Saturday. I come back Monday. I sneak back Sunday night when her mom was picking her up. And I can remember on those long Sunday nights, man, peeking around the side of my mama's house through those tears. And as those headlights were backing out my driveway, I'd see those two heads in the car, and I'd be thinking to myself, there go my life backing out this driveway. And I'd be crying. And I've heard a lot of people share about being scared of dying out there, and that ain't a part of my story. I was never scared of dying. I was scared I was going to keep waking up to the same old shit. Monday the same as Tuesday, the same as Sunday, the same as Christmas, over and over and over again. And I am so glad that God don't make misery comfortable. And on October the 11th in 1986, I got miserable enough and I got tired enough that I got directed to my 4th program of recovery. And I went to the Harper Light Center on Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. On October the 13th, 1986, they took me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was a gentleman standing up in front of the group that night, sharing his experience, strength, and hope. And when I went to that meeting, when I went up in that program, I was full of guilt. I was full of remorse. I was full of shame. I was full, I'll never be able to forgive myself for the things I had done. I've only shared with you guys the tip of the iceberg. I didn't share with you when I got put out of my house and went to stay in my mom's house, I started stealing out my mom's purse. Didn't share with you when I got put out of my house and went to stay in mom's house. A check came to one of my little brothers in the name of R. White. All of us are R. White. Stole it. Didn't share with you when grandmama gave me $200 to buy a plane ticket for the family reunion. If it wasn't for my mom, she never would have saw Atlanta, Georgia. Didn't share with you the first time I tried to get sober, my ex-wife got me a job at her job. I stole $1,600 from them and ruined her reputation in that industry. Didn't share with you a lot. Suffice it to say, I had a lot on my plate when I got here, and I would never be able to forgive myself. And a gentleman was standing up in front of us that October the 13th sharing, like I've been sharing tonight. He was sharing about taking from the job. He was sharing about taking from the family. And I remember looking at him that night and thinking to myself, you sharing about doing scandalous things, but you look scandalous. You should have been doing that shit. I wasn't raised that way. I'm different. Y'all ain't gonna hear my business. And the speaker seemed like he knew I was in the room, because he dropped something on me like this that night. He said, if you're sitting in this room right now, you are not responsible for your disease, but you are responsible for your recovery. And you have just now tapped into a source of power much greater than yourself. And you don't have to drink and you don't have to use no matter what, provided you are willing to fulfill some conditions. And he caught my attention. He went on to say, this is the only club you can be a member of where the worse off you are when you get here, better off your chances of staying. And I got the message of hope that first night in Alcoholics Anonymous. He described to me what I suffer from, and you know what I like the most about him? He talked in the first person. For the first time, somebody wasn't talking to me in the third person. For the first time, somebody wasn't saying, ooh, you need to change. Look at what you're doing to that girl. Man, look at the life you have. Why are you throwing your life away? No, he wasn't saying shit about me. He was talking about himself. He was talking about himself. And he was hitting me where I live. He shared something bodily different about me than other people. And he invited me to diagnose myself. He said, Ralph, look at your own experience. Don't take my word for it. Look at your own experience. How many times did you say, I'm just going to stop at happy hour? What happened? My case, whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I just got an hour to kill? What happened? Whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I'm just going to spend $20? What happened? Whole paycheck. Did it happen once? Did it happen twice? Ralph, don't look at the times you set out to get tore up. Look at the times you said, I'm just going to spend. What happened? Once, twice? My case, every 2 weeks from 1979 to 1986, whole paycheck. My experience, fine. My experience shows me when I introduce anything into my body, when I take the first one of anything, no matter where I have to go, what I have to do, who I have to see, no matter how great the wish or the necessity, my body takes over and I have to have another. It ain't even no period of deliberation. I gotta have another. Ralph, if it's only my body, how do you explain stone sober? My car seemed to drive to the LIQ on payday, second part of this disease. The mental obsession. The obsession that somehow, someday I'll be able to control and enjoy this magic potion I discovered all those many years ago. I can't drink because of my body. I can't stop because my mind refuses to accept that fact. I'm powerless. Third part of this disease, spiritual malady. In the 12 and 12, sometimes they call it a soul sickness. And in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, Ralph, if you work on the spiritual, the mental and the physical will straighten out. If you work on the spiritual, the mental and the physical will straighten out. And that's what the program of recovery is really about. When you strip it of what, you know, the lingo and the jargon, because somebody in here is like me. Somebody in here is new and wondering, what the hell is it we doing up in these rooms? I hear people talk about the work. Some folks say the process. Some people call it the program. Most people talk about the steps. What the hell is it where I live? I've heard people say, Ralph, I don't have time to get, I'm so busy with work and family and the rest of that, I ain't had time to get in the steps. What the hell else you got time to do? Bill describes it this way. He says, it's a manner of living that really works. What it is that we doing up in here, for the first time in my life, I'm living. I'm living life. I'm living life successfully. And I am grateful to the men and women in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm one of the ones that is not ashamed to stand up in front of you and talk. I do a lot of talking about the steps. I do a lot of talking about the program. I do a lot of talking about this fellowship. And I do a whole lot of talking about this power you guys introduced me to as a result of applying these steps. And more than all the talking I do, because somebody in here is getting confused again. Somebody in here is just like me, thinking to themselves, yeah, they listening to this long-winded guy up there, but just wait till I get a chance to get up there. I remember being 30 or 60 days, knowing I'm going to be a Sunday night speaker. Can't wait. I ain't mad at you. Somebody in there know they can do a better job than I'm doing right now. That's cool. You know, and thinking to yourself, yeah, he must be working a hell of a program. Listen to the way he's sharing. And somebody else is on the opposite end of that. Somebody else is thinking to themselves, I'll never be able to get up in front of the group and share. I'll never be able to get up in front of people and say what it is that's going. Can I get this thing? Check this out. The ability to share about the program of recovery ain't got a whole lot to do with the ability to live the program of recovery. What Ralph is doing right now ain't living the program. I'm talking about recovery. This is a living program, and it's within the reach and it's within the grasp of anybody sitting in this room right now. In the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about God don't make too hard of terms with those who seek him. And I love that line. I'm one of the ones that came in here, man, and given up on life. I'm one of the ones. See, if you're looking for the speaker that's going to get up in front of you tonight and try to scare you in the recovery, I ain't the man. I ain't the one. I ain't the one that's going to tell you if you get back out there still kicking ass, if you do this, it's still that. You know what? And I told you I have the special features. It was times when I do it the way that I'm doing it. Sometimes people used to look at me and say, God damn, Ralph, the way you do your shit, ain't you scared of overdose? I'd be like, overdose? I'm scared of the deadly underdose. You better give me some more shit. You know, So the message of fear ain't the message that a whole alcoholic or my variety. The big book talks about a message that's got to have depth and it's got to have weight. We just having fun up in here. Because if you think this program, when it talks about we are not a club lie, and the program and the message of recovery that I have that's got the most depth and that's got the most weight is you looking at a guy who at 33 years old had given up on life. You looking at a guy who's a graduate of a major university in this country. And my job at the end of my drinking and using was taking the trash out for a youngster who lived across the street from my mother's house. I was sleeping in the back of my mother's garage. I was eating lemons off a neighbor's lemon tree for breakfast. It had been a long time since I had answered anybody's 8 o'clock wake-up call to go to work, and I did not think I'd be capable of doing it any time in the near future. I wasn't welcome in my mama's house. I wasn't welcome in my own house. In fact, I didn't even know where my family was living at the time. And I was so far down, the thought of getting up didn't come to mind no more, man. I was tore up. And you met me right where I was. And you didn't ask me for anything. And the men and women in this fellowship, the fellowship I crave, you extended your arms to me, man, and you loved me and you nursed me back to health, and I'm still grateful. You said, and Chuck was talking about it, and I listened at the time, you said, let us love you till you can love yourself. And I said, you lying. You lying. I stink. If you turn your back on me, I'm liable to go up in your purse. How you gonna tell me you'll love me till I can love myself? And that was before I knew what takes place in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was before I knew what happens when the God in you reaches out to the God in me. That was before I knew that in Alcoholics Anonymous we specialize in loving unlovable people. And you love me and you nursed me back to health. You gave me a way out upon which we can all agree. You gave me some steps for living, and I apply them one day at a time to the best of my ability, right where I am right now. I get the opportunity to work with a lot of men and women, and I'm not one of the ones that does a lot of talking about the don'ts. Don't get in these kind of relationships. Don't go around these kind of people. Don't go around these kind of places. Do go to lots of meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Do get a sponsor who has working knowledge and experience with the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Do read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous with somebody who's read that book and applied those steps in their life. Do apply the steps to your life to the best of your ability right where you are right now. Do get in touch with a God of your understanding, and then do whatever the hell you want to do. This program is about living. It ain't about losing. This program is about living. It ain't about losing. You know, I'm one of the ones that came in here. You know, if this thing wasn't fun, trust me, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm a kind of person, man, the way that I roll, you really need to know who's standing up in front of you. I really have never been interested in what it is that I am or what I have or what I could be. All I'm interested in is convincing you of the way that I am. I want to convince you I'm serious, and I want to convince me I'm serious. So the first 3 times I tried to come around the program, the way that I would work it is this. I would come to a meeting, listen to a guy share somewhat like I'm sharing tonight, and I'm a good mimic, and I'm a good chameleon, and I'm really good at memorizing certain phrases, especially if it's heavy and profound. And I would go to a meeting tomorrow night. I'd make sure not too many of you guys from last night were at the meeting, especially make sure the speaker wasn't at the meeting. Share some of the shit he shared, right? Tack on a keep coming back, tack on a program works, and think because I claimed it in my experience, it was true in my life. And I bounced in here 4 times. And this last time when I came, because I was serious every single time I came before, this last time that I came back to the program of recovery, not only was I serious, this time I was committed. Serious is how I feel. Committed is what I do. And I was committed to do whatever it took to stay sober one day at a time. And that does not mean having to convince you of how serious I am. I used to sit in meetings and listen to speakers share like that wedding story I shared, and people laughed, and I'd look at you guys like, that ain't funny. He must have really been in pain, and why are you guys laughing? And I didn't know what takes place in here, you guys. You know, I really didn't. I thought the more serious I appeared, the more serious I was. Check this out. I have to be serious in recovery, but about my recovery, but that don't mean I always have to be serious in recovery. If you ain't laughing in this program, you ain't taking this program serious enough. If you ain't laughing in this program, you ain't taking this program serious enough. Yeah, it's going to be some things along the way. I've been doing this thing almost 17 years, and every single day has not been a day that I will write home about, but guess what? Every single day has been better than the way it was. And my sponsor always shares with me, Ralph, no matter what it is that's in front of you, no matter what it is you're going through, hold on to one thing. God's grace is always sufficient to meet the need. It may not exceed the need, but it's always sufficient to meet the need. Somebody in here right now is in a real dark place, and it feels like I just can't go on no further. It feels like I just can't handle this by myself. And I got the kind of sponsor that says to me, Ralph, ask yourself, is it all right now? Right now, while this long-winded brother is right now. Don't trip off next week if the money don't get better, or if his ass don't straighten up in 2 days, or if these kids, right now. And every right now, it kept being all right. And God would take me to a better place, and he'd get me through a situation. And on the other side of that situation, I'd be armed with something that's invaluable to me. I'd be armed with something that allows me to walk with a sense of purpose. I'd be armed with something that's giving me what I need to make it through, that's giving me this purposeful walk and this mission that I'm on. And that is experience. And it's invaluable. That's what we have. That's what we have. One alcoholic reaching out to another. It's going to be a day that my mama dies, and I won't have to drink. How I know? Because somebody in here already went through it. It's going to be a day that I might have to lose my job, and I won't have to drink. How I know? Somebody in here already went through it. Armed with something that's invaluable to me. Having experience is fine. It's just getting experience that hurts so much. Somebody in here is just getting experience. Somebody in here just getting experience, and God will give me what I need just when I need it, you know. And I'm out of time again, and it's so much fun up in here, you guys. I could go all night long, you know. And if God had brought you from where he brought me, you talk about him all night long too. You know, I used to ask my sponsor when I went out to meetings, and I thought it would be a lot of new people. If it's a lot of new people, should I do a lot of talking about God? And my sponsor would say, Ralph, the talk of God scare anybody out the rooms. There's some shit in the street that'll scare their asses right back up in there. Don't trip. Don't trip. You know, and again, I am so very grateful for you guys for tolerating me. I'm so very grateful to you guys for taking me in. I'm so very grateful to you guys for my life. I'm so very grateful to you guys that today I'm a father to those kids. I'm so very grateful to you guys that I have two little girls right now, an 8-year-old who's never seen her daddy loaded, and a 20-year-old whose piggy bank I used to go in. And my little girls give me that look I've been looking for all my life. I'm getting ready to go home, and they'll be waiting on me. And they'll meet me at the door, and they give me that look. Like, this is my daddy. This is my hero. You guys gave me that. And you know what I like about this power that you introduced me to that gave it to me? He's still in the business of doing it, man. He's still in the business of putting families back together. He's still in the business of putting kids back with their mothers. He's still in the business of putting men back in the house. He's still in the business of lifting drunks up. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic.